Silvercore Club is growing. We have the Outpost, which is the private members podcast. It comes out every single week. We talk about matters to do with physical health, mental health, those quiet conversations that don't quite make it into the podcast, tips and tricks that we're able to share both for myself and those within the Silvercore community. We've just launched the back-end blog and we're growing that out. Right now we've got the document that Sean Taylor, ex-JTF2, an elite athlete, put together on mental and physical wellness and performance. That's free to download for any Silvercore Club member. And Tiffany put out her no-fail bacon recipe, which is amazing. If you like bacon and you want the best bacon you've ever tasted, that recipe is available for Silvercore Club members. And let's not forget, July 29th to August 2nd, if you're into fishing or you want to be into fishing and you want to go for steelhead in a world-class location, the fabulous Skeena Bay Lodge in Terrace, British Columbia is offering 40% off for Silvercore Club members. Only a few limited spots left. If this is something you're interested in, I'm going to be there. My wife Tiffany's going to be there. We'd love to be able to meet with you and the rest of the club members, do some fishing, spend some time in the lodge, and really connect as a community. If you're a club member, jump on these. If you're not a club member, just go to silvercore.ca/club and you can check out these offers and all of the other perks and benefits that go along with being a Silvercore Club member. Now, without further ado, let's get on with this podcast. I'm joined today by someone who spent decades studying how we perform under pressure. A veteran police officer, instructor, and internationally respected use of force expert. He's a senior consultant with Force Science Institute and the founder of Training on Purpose by Design, where he trains law enforcement and military professionals using evidence-based methods rooted in neuroscience with human behavior. His work bridges science and application to better prepare those who face real-world danger. Welcome to the Silvercore Podcast, Jeff Johnsgaard.
Hey, Travis. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, it was kind of fortuitous how this one came about. I'm sitting in my studio here and getting hungry, and I'm like, well, go over to the local eatery here. And I'm fortunate where I work and where the studio is. In British Columbia, we don't have many gunsmiths, but I have two gunsmiths businesses within about, 5-minute walking distance of where I'm at. And so there I am walking over to get some food, and I look out front and I can see a fellow in front of this nondescript building because nobody wants to advertise that they're a gunsmith. And it's Monday, and I don't know what it's like in the States where you're at right now, but in Canada, for whatever reason, gun stores like to be closed on Monday. And he's standing out there, and I said, I think you're going to be waiting a while if you're waiting for the gunsmith to open up shop. And he looks up and he says, Travis? And it turns out he listens and watches the podcast, and we talked for a little bit. He's like, you gotta meet this guy, Jeff. He's amazing. And man, he was singing your praises. So I'll just put a shout out to AJ. AJ, thank you very much for helping facilitate this podcast.
Well, I'll slip a 20 in his pocket the next time I see him then for that as well. I think it was funny because, as you said, fortuitous. I believe it was like, that was literally, I think he just dropped me off at the airport. So I was in Abbotsford. I did a week-long course for the Abbotsford PD, and then I did some stuff with AJ and his crew, because I'm also a budoka, like a martial artist at heart, and we just kind of the lineage, and had a great weekend of stuff. And then I think he dropped me off, and then he met you, so that was kind of funny, man.
I don't know. The universe unfolds as it should, totally, as they say, right? So you've got an interesting background. I've done a little bit of research on you, looked at a few of the different programs you offer and some of your history, but why don't I hear it from your mouth? Tell me a little bit about what makes Jeff Jeff, and what you're doing in the States now, which sounds pretty freaking cool.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I'm always trying to offer value, right? And so I appreciate coming on the podcast, and I hope that, whomever the 6 listeners or whatever that actually want to hear me, that actually want to hear anything I have to say, not to say that you've got way more than 6, but,
I wouldn't worry about it.
Enjoy everything I have to say, but I also want want to offer them some value. So I guess I'll, ask me anything you want, but I would kind of try to frame it as we do a talk here, like to think about, what I really do is, I guess one of the things I really do is I'm a software guy, and that doesn't mean anything to do with computers. That means that, I love hardware. You want to put a TV screen called a red dot on top of a gun, and maybe you'll shoot better, or the latest bell or whistle or gadget. And I'm all about working the tools and and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I've really been fortunate because I found like interesting and talented people and just stalked them until they became my friends and the rest of it. And we're talking 4 continents, 5 tier 1 organizations behind closed doors, all the way to the tier, I'll call it 99 level, or just like I'm a civilian day one, just kind of thinking about self-defense. And usually that's the realm I work in. I'm trying to get people, in these tense, uncertain, rapidly unfolding, ambiguous situations under high stakes and pressure. How the heck do we perform better? And again, I come back to the software. And so if I can give someone a software, a mental upgrade, and then that'll take us down the path of talking about attention, focus, what are cues, how do we know what we're going to do, and the rest of it, which I think is kind of what we'll get into, because I'm very passionate about it as well as many other things. But that is, if I call it if I had a stupid human trick or the superpower, so to speak, right? I just kind of look at what people do and just offer them ways of, as I said, that software upgrade, or looking at it differently, or being more purposeful and deliberate with what they're doing, and just getting way more value out of it. Whether that's a SWAT team, whether that's a person who's trying to be better at presenting in business because they're nervous or anxious, whether that be whatever. And so, I don't know where we want to go with it, but I'll just frame everything we're about to talk about with the idea. I'll say to you and the viewers, what are you going to do when the test happens? How do you know what you're going to do when the quote test happens? And that test could be anything. It could be a car accident. It could be your child injured in front of you, and you've got some training in CPR, first aid, and stop the bleed, but how do you know you're going to not freeze? How do you know you're going to rise to the occasion? And so there's a lot of research around that. The concept is called threat or challenge. And by simply framing your mind, seeing that what the demands of the situation, is this a threat to me or a challenge to me? We can kind of unpack that some more. You actually have psychological and physiological changes just based on how you feel about it. And the only way to really, put that on and make it more robust, durable, resilient, right? All these words that we're keen on in the communities that are outdoors, and the communities that are thinking about defense, and the communities that are, let's be honest, that's what we do. It's what we're a part of. In these situations, I always say that experience, of course, is the key factor for that, but it has an emotional flavoring or tag. And so the line I love is, experience, it's always gained moments after you needed it. Right? So,
isn't that true?
Right? And now that I've been through that, I needed it 18 seconds ago, right? I needed it yesterday. I needed it, but now, so how do we be more intentional and deliberate with shaping our mind and then there's this attentional quadrants. There's just this concept, and maybe we can talk about that because I found it very useful. Anyway, so the point being is that let's have a conversation about, what exactly happens, especially in time compressed, ambiguous, high stakes environments, or just any time when you're feeling, whoa, the boss said I got to do a presentation. Whoa, I have a game or a competition or something that I'm training for, and I want to perform my best. Well, I start from the absolute worst case scenario in my mind, where you've got literally within fractions of a second, there's a gun I train cops all the time. Retired 21 years now myself. Sorry, after 21 years, I just retired. Let's be.
Oh, you're looking pretty good for being retired 21 years.
Words
Good for
matter.
you.
Yeah, words matter. Let's be clear with
Words matter.
Let's be clear with that. Language is an imperfect form of communication. So here we go. And so in law enforcement, it is a standard thing that the odds are very well stacked that the first tip you're in a gunfight is not that you've been shot at, that you have been shot, probably in the head or neck. Now solve the problem. This is a fact. If you're not training from that fact, cognitive dissonance will take place, which is a fancy mouth words for the real world, and what is happening is not lining up with what I believed or came to believe the world was going to be like. And now I'm having all this, there's shock, novelty, surprise. I'm perhaps going internal with my focus of attention, which is not usually a good place for executing skill sets and understanding information and learning how to be and perform our best. And so anyway, this threat versus challenge, there's a lot of research on it. These are not words I made up. Your heart functions differently. If you believe I have been here before, or I have seen things like this, or I have the ability to pivot and adjust, go to exhilaration instead of anxiety, threat state, where your heart and your attentional systems function less optimally. It's just amazing stuff we didn't know. And so when
No, hey, we spoke before on the phone, and I made notes as I was going through. I was like, you know what? My goal here when speaking with you is twofold. Number one, you've got a lot of really cool research and courses and information stored in your head, and I'd like to find a way to be able to unpack some of that ways. And you and I talked on that, and you've looked at different ways that we can do that, and you've actually put out some articles on your website. It's we're going to have links in the bio here, onpurpose.training, but we'll have links to these things in the bio. But the second part that I'd like to unpack is you as an individual. And you brought something up which was kind of interesting because I have a feeling I know a little bit about you, and you are an excellent presenter and you're an excellent instructor. But sometimes we can get lost in the instructor persona and trying to separate the instructor from the individual. I looked at as one of the challenges that I'd like to try and see what we can do here. So you mentioned something about a stupid human trick. When was the first time that you realized you had this skill as a stupid human trick?
It was in Austin, Texas, the Seattle of Texas, as I'm told. And so
yes, it is. I was just there a couple of months ago.
Yep. And I'm taking a course from a guy. He wrote a book called Training at the Speed of Life, Volume 1. And so he's one of the guys.
That's a good book.
He co-invented these FX marking cartridges, which is these little paint bullets in a cartridge-based technology that typically law enforcement and the military shoot at each other. And I'm very, very opinionated about how to use those things. And I didn't know what I didn't know before I met this guy. And so I distinctly remember a time where I'm taking this instructor course, right? So how to train instructors, or whatever you call that, a master instructor, whatever you want to call it. And so just a short version of this, so I can get to that moment, is we've got a scenario going on where there's a vehicle stop and there's a role player and it's gone to guns, and then there's basically a prop, meaning the cop is the prop, because the instructor is learning how to teach that person, and I'm behind that guy learning how to teach that guy how to then teach that guy. It's kind of funny. It's like a human snake of people just following this guy around. And so there was an incident that happened where the cop was doing his thing, but he was having I use these technical terms all the time, but his gun got dicked up. And so he had to undick it, right? So it was going bang and it went click, and it was having this trouble, but the trouble was based with the technology, the conversion kit, and it was getting all dicked up. And the instructor wanted to just fix it for him, Not because he wasn't doing the right thing. He was doing the right thing, but it was a technological failure. But that is called a gift. And so is it something that could happen in real life? It is. And so anyway, so as we're unpacking and I'm behind this person, and there's someone behind me, we started coaching. And so I'm very specific about coaching. There's a great book, if anybody's ever into it, both with physical skills coaching, like sprinting and the rest of it, called The Language of Coaching by Nick Wakelman. How to develop cues and how to use words, because words have meaning. And so this is that thing where, I could say to you, inward opening door. Well, does that mean it opens to me, or does that mean it opens into the room? I could say slow trigger press. Well, what does that mean? I could say anything. My standard, I always say, is, draw me a lamp, and that's a desk lamp or a genie's lamp or a whatever. But we're speaking English, and so I just assume you get it because I told you the thing. And so that's how I learned what I didn't know, this stupid human trick about language and about the ambiguity of language. And just because I had something in my head, and maybe that I'm amazing at performing it, doesn't mean I can get that into someone else. Furthermore, so that they can do it with a part of their brain that happens without thinking about it. When you don't have time to go, what did Travis tell me to do? What does policy say? What would be best? No. A gun appears in under a quarter of a second, and has shot me in the face already. It takes the average person 0.25. So there's within 1 second, there's 4 trigger presses, if not 5, because it started on the first round. You're standing there eating up all of those rounds in that case. How do I then learn how to train someone to do optimal, right? Because there is a very, very big difference to me, Travis, between reactiveness and responsiveness. And so how do I train someone to have a deliberate, I'll call it, let's call it more deliberate, programmed responses versus these primal reactions? And so, because we all do stuff without thinking about it, and now I can start to move you towards research, talking about how there's a traffic stop study, it's called, done by Force Science, where 93 officers were working a vehicle stop, and all of a sudden a driver produced a gun, and 90 out of 93 officers did something very not optimal that had them sucking up a lot of rounds. But if I could just jump in and go, touch them on the shoulder just for a second, pause, talk to me about what you're, oh no, forget it. They'd say, I'd already do. If you gave them a fraction of a second, they would do something way better, but they didn't. And it was a huge gut check for me, looking at something like that research and going, oh, the reason they're doing not optimal, which is, let's be honest, they're doing something very not good that's going to get them killed, is directly the result of the training I had put them through, because that's the standard in law enforcement right now. And that was a humbling, shocking kind of thing.
Yeah. I think I remember that Forest Science research that you're talking about there. And if I recall correctly, only like a very, very small percentage of people in that situation, like they're coming up driver's side, gun comes out, and person starts shooting, or they draw a gun, and most of the officers draw and they go around the back and they're trying to find cover. Some just freeze, and only a very small percentage reached out and grabbed that hand and controlled the muscle on it. And if that's the same one that I'm thinking about, and the people that did that are people that had previous martial arts training, combatives training.
Well, you're on the right track. So let's stick with this and sharpen it. So 93 officers, and 90 did something not optimal, which was try to outdraw a trigger press, right? When the gun is within reach. So checking the gun, or just doing anything else other than, oh no, there's a gun. Every time I see a gun in my previous history, training, and experience, you have a gun? Oh, it's time to do the gun thing. I have a gun. You have a gun. It's a bad thing. I got a bad thing. Stopper. Let's get that out and do the thing. But now in this case, it's extremely not optimal. You're literally being shot at. You're standing, quote, on the X, or you're standing in an area or moving backpedaling into an area that's going to get you hit by traffic, and all
Sure.
this not optimal stuff. The three people who did something other than that, let's double tap on that. Two of them, would it surprise you that they were defensive tactics instructors, longtime martial artists, had done lots and lots of, whether you want to think of it as repetitions or experience or whatever, with things such as that. A gun close to me, maybe I get mine out, maybe I do something else, or there's some sort of difference, some variability, and I know how to deal with that. I've seen it before. But one of them was just a standard officer. She wasn't like former CIA or something like that, right? She checked that gun, got her pistol, went to work, never even got shot. Dealt with the threat and all the rest of it. And in speaking to her, here's the key point, bringing it all the way back around to threat challenge type stuff. The key point is they said, like, so tell me about that. Well, I'm not an instructor. I'm not in anything. She goes, but every time I do a vehicle stop, she goes, actually, every time I do anything on the job, I always take a moment and sit and think about it. Okay, so now your ideas intrigue me. I wish to subscribe to your newsletter. Tell me more about that, right? Okay, so first of all, I'm trying to double tap on the why. And she said, well, I'm not, look at me. I'm not big. I'm not strong. I'm not fat. I'm not the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. I'm not any of that stuff. I am safe because I see things happening. I react sooner. I use my weapon systems. I know how to get distance and disengage or engage and things like that. I'm like, hey, I'm loving what you're saying. Okay, so tell me more. She said, well, every time I do a vehicle stop, for example, I go back and I think, how could that have gone wrong? And I went, interesting language. Asking her some more, because she's I would call her honestly an expert performer, but she's like a Wayne Gretzky to me. I'm told, I don't know anything about sports really. I'm told Wayne Gretzky was a GOAT, greatest of all times, before that was a term. But I'm also told that Wayne Gretzky is not very good at coaching, getting that into someone else's head. This is what I'm told. And so I find that with a lot of experts is that they're very good, but they're just like, what's wrong with you? Aim harder. Why don't you get this? Right? Suck less, like that kind of thing.
Suck less.
Even if it's well-intentioned. I mean, I spent some time in the British Army, very not well-intentioned, right? I mean, it was some theology, right? So that was a thing. So back to this officer, she said, not only would I envision it happening, here's the key point, and what I would do in response. So she, through theater of the mind, through visualization imagery, was giving herself repetitions or experiences of seeing something evolve, having it be, flavored negative, I suppose, gun coming out at you, but instantaneously linking that to a response. So when it did happen, she had already been there. And then I can tell you about talking to Michael Phelps. Guy's got 16 gold medals. Hey, Michael, what do you think your one-up over the competition was? Thinking he was going to go, well, detective, I have a 17-foot wingspan. But no, he said, hey, my ability to imagine and visualize. And I went, oh, really? Which led me down 3, 4, 5 more questions and a new path in my life, such as, he could not only envision, so we're talking goal setting, we're talking things of that nature with imagery and with races, but actually you can practice, quote, repetitions. And I'm going to tell you about a couple of studies that'll blow your mind with that, where practicing mentally is almost as good as practicing physically. Heaven forbid we did both of them, less wear and tear on the joints as well, but also the residue of quote unquote negative thinking. There's one study that's going to just like key point it and blow you away. But again, it's the residue, the emotional tagging I don't know how the youngest viewer or listener is going to be, but back before your iPhone had a contacts app, you had a Rolodex, right? So there's this Rolodex of cue cards. And I think of that as an analogy where when I see this stimulus or perception, car coming at me, there's this thing happening, oh, whatever, stimulus response. I go through my Rolodex of experience. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take that experience. There's a gun, I do this. There's a bleeding, I do this. My child runs to me, I hear them scream, which of course has happened. I'm a father of two, this big tough guy. And then all of a sudden I heard my daughter scream out front. And I'm running it to the front door and I got a frying pan in my hand still. And I'm just combat ineffective, right? Combat ineffective. But I'm the guy who teaches this stuff. But over in this area, I hadn't quite dealt with young daughter screaming, daddy, that kind of thing. And so to carry over, right? And so this emotional tagging of the cue card, we dog ear it and highlight it with relevance and emotion and context. And that allows us to instantaneously not only select a skill, but have the confidence and competence necessary to execute in a meaningful way. Trust me, that does not mean it's always going to work out for me. Absolutely not. I can tell you that so many times in my life. But I know I will do everything I can to the greatest of my knowledge, skills, and ability. I know I can pivot and adjust because I can do difficult things. That's great. Jeff, tell me 3 things that are difficult that you've done, because it has to be grounded in reality. Right? It just can't be some fictitious house of cards. So back to the traffic stop study, she had done that. Michael Phelps had envisioned diving into the water, goggle flipping full of water. And what he would do is, quote unquote, he envisioned it happening and how to recover in a world-class way. That actually happened to him in a gold medal match. I think it was just one. Not match, race, again, me in sports, but, but I don't know what.
Hey, I'm on the same page as you.
What curling India was in, I don't know, whatever. Michael, yeah. But so it flips. He says, when that happened, I had been there before, so I just executed that thing. But he too was like a Wayne Gretzky. He too was an amazing person, high-level elite athlete. But I had to ask him a bunch more questions, which is my stupid human trick. Seeking first to understand from that person's point of view, and then being able to wrap and feed knowledge into knowledge so that you remember it, do it, and the rest of it. So
here's an interesting one when you bring up that Phelps one. And, you've brought up a bunch. Here, I'm going to show for the people who are looking on camera right now. You can see all the different notes I've been taking as you've been talking. I'm going to try and touch back on a couple of them that I think are pretty interesting. But
you go ahead.
Well, you talk about Michael Phelps and how he pre-visualized how he would deal with a catastrophic goggles filling up in an emergency. How would he deal with that in a world-class way? And that brings to mind The Matrix, when Neo goes in to see the Oracle, and she's like, oh, watch out for that jar, or whatever it was that was on the counter that he's going to knock over, or the shelf.
Right.
And he's like, what? And then he knocks it over. And she says, well, what's really going to cook your noodle is, would you have knocked that over if I didn't say that?
Yeah.
Right. So my mind immediately goes, like, I remember when I was in elementary school, one of the mothers didn't want to go out on the ice and ice skate with the kids and the parents. And she says, I'm a single mother. I can't afford to fall down and break my arm. I can't do that. And my father talked her into going out and ice skating. And what did she do? She fell down and she broke her arm. Now, would that have happened if we didn't implant that into our mind ahead of time? Would Michael Phelps have just not had that issue? And I've thought about that back and forth in speaking with a Tier 1 fellow, Sean Taylor. He's ex-JTF2. And his thoughts on these different things about how we create a reality through thought and through process really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. Because if that's our reality, doesn't matter if we create it ahead of time or how we rationalize it afterwards, as long as the reality is one that is acceptable to us. So I thought an interesting concept. I'm going to lay with you.
Yeah. Is it possible that a goggle could flip full of water? Yes. Is that optimal? No. How do you recover in a world-class way? Because you can't yell timeout. Is it possible I could get shot and let me try and think of what is his name? Marcus Young comes to mind. Marcus Young, it was like Uki, California. I don't know why this one just popped into my head. Shot point blank in the face, wrestling with a suspect, takes the first round in the face. Next round destroys his gun side, his weapon side arm, humerus. Subsequent rounds, front of the vest, back of the vest. The guy then jams the pistol up underneath his other side armpit, because he is like literally a white supremacist, trained violent sociopath, probably because he knew his vest wasn't there. Fires another round, blows out his scapula, thankfully not his spine, drops to the ground, and Marcus, who's got a 17-year-old ride-along, you can only imagine sitting there with eyes spinning like a slot machine or something. Walmart security guard comes over, subsequently gets stabbed by the same guy. He goes down. Marcus goes, I remember my hand, I was trying to get my gun out. And I look and I realize my arm is not working. It's gone. But, but I've been here before because they taught me to grab my gun with my other hand. But it ain't working. I look down and his hand was shot and mangled. It's like couldn't even deactivate the safeties. So he calmed himself down and coached that kid how to get his gun out, put it in his hand, end the threat. Further, he started coaching the kid how to direct ambulance and units to them. Then he started directing the ambulance units where and how to patch him. Then he gets taken into hospital. He started directing them, please take 2 vials of blood because I want to prove that I wasn't on alcohol or any other barbiturates or, any other thing, because there is a civil fight that's going to happen next. He's already putting himself into the next fight, the next plan, the next thing, and keeping himself on the entire time. When talking to Marcus Young, he's, a lot of great stuff happened there, Marcus. If you could put it down to a couple of key principles, what would they be? He's like, because I had envisioned it before. I anchored it to something rich, deep, and meaningful, as in, I'm not going to die here. I'm going to go home to my family. So when it happened, I had been there before. Now, going out onto the ice, catastrophizing and focusing, which is my guess what happened to that lady, I'm going to fall, the ice is dangerous, there is, et cetera, versus put me in, coach, gunfights are dangerous, but I'm wanting to go with this group into that house, or you know what I mean, or I rise to the occasion, and if things happen, I'll pivot and adjust and continue to be task focused. There is a distinct difference between what we're talking about between that tier 1 operator and the lady on the ice, but it's still happening between their ears. So I prefer to be ready for all circumstances, having gone through it to a rich, deep, meaningful level, so that I have all the cue cards that I could possibly have. It's free. It happens in seconds. You only get better at doing mental rehearsal with mental rehearsal. I mean, literally, I do it with everyone, from people who want to be better in business to people who, can you teach my child to play the violin faster? Yeah, I can. I have nothing about the violin, but I'll have them learning and being in that environment and learning how to thrive and seek out challenge, because struggle means you're learning. We must embrace the struggle. If there's no friction, then there's no learning. And with no learning, there's no growth. And at the center of my being is growth. And these are the conversations that I have with people to get them real sharp and define this thing called your mind that you're always using, but perhaps not in a world-class way.
A lot of people are very afraid of failure, and they're risk adverse, and they view failure as not a stepping stone to success, but they view it as a roadblock. And I got to do everything right so I just don't fail that one time. And I'm sure you've heard that study about I think it was a pottery teacher. And they said, okay, this side of the class, I want you to make the perfect pot. You know, none of you guys have done pottery before, but it's going to be perfect. Take all the time you want. This side of the class, I just want you to make as many pots as you can. And of course, the ones that just did it over and over, they weren't afraid of making that one perfect pot. inevitably, they all ended up making better pottery than the ones that took their entire semester making that one perfect pot, because they failed and they rebuilt, and they failed and they rebuilt, and they kept going through that. So I guess my question to you would be, how do you help somebody realize that failure isn't fatal? That success isn't final, failure isn't fatal, to quote Churchill, and be able to apply that in a meaningful way in their life in business, in their life in sports, or in the shooting world, that they should be seeking out failure in a meaningful way.
Well, I mean, that is a very profound statement. And so, I mean, we could always dodge around the word. Guided error would be a term in the research. Guided exploration. I typically I will ask them to build two boxes, two mindsets. In the research, it was called the Dr. Tim Lee. He called it the think box and the play box, I believe. I'm not a fan of those two words. I like the explore and the perform. Ron Avery, competition shooter, I think he calls it the training mindset and the trusting mindset. Although I don't know if I heard him use those terms before. I don't know if we're using them in the same manner. But I want to build we're entering a frame where we're literally seeking where things don't work so well. And so it's called the challenge point framework, where you're kind of at this 70% of the time, maybe a little more, you're doing it not bad or doing it okay, but you got to be, dicking it up 20, 30% of the time, struggling, finding it like quote unquote error, or geez, that doesn't work so well, etc., in order to be at optimal growth, at optimal learning. Now, it can't be all struggle all the time. So this is keenly linked to motivation. Keenly linked to motivation. And the number one thing I would want is for people to be motivated. You could have the worst instructor and the worst program in the world, but if you're just motivated, you're going to get some stuff out of that. If you're not motivated, you could have the best instructor and the best program in the entire world, and you just checked out of it, and you're not going to get any results out of that are worth a lick. And so there are these conceptual dials, I guess, that they've been often referred to as, and learner motivation is one of them. So whenever I work with someone or a group or whatever, I'm always trying to leverage all of these things at one time. So every time I give feedback, my sole focus is to help to establish a feedback loop in that person so they have intrinsic feedback. So they know how to self-correct, diagnose, etc. Now, that doesn't mean I don't tell people descriptively, explicitly, hey, yeah, I see you doing this, maybe do some of that. But if I can get them to invest in the knowledge, again, we're back to this, the confusion means you're learning something new. It's a good thing. Frustration means you're on the verge of a breakthrough. And we need to tuck into that. So I shape their mind. I offer them to say, I don't want you to be goal or results focused. I want you to be process or effort focused. I'm on the right path, taking another step today. Because let's be honest, you might have a goal to be level whatever, or get job X or something like that. But hopefully there's always going to be more growth and more stuff after that, right? Whether that's whatever that looks like. You can still be a better communicator, which in turn made me a better father, a happier husband, a better, just all that, all these things in life as well. So I'm always trying to leverage those principles and concepts. Error is absolutely necessary. So we have to embrace the struggle. It's like healing, right? Healing is not linear. We take these ups and downs and turns as we're on our way to growth or healing or something like that. And so again, this is just a full send. This is just Jeff, talking. This isn't a training, because I would now say, so Travis, what did you get from that? Hey, talk to me about a time in your life when. Hey, how could we, to create that loop? Because as soon as I hear you say what you're going to say, I immediately know what to say to you next if I've defined the end state, which is a training situation as well. If I ask you to demonstrate the arm bar or the golf swing, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't know golf swing from a golf swing. But as soon as you do that, I immediately know what to say, do, or drill, or experience, or whatever to put you in next in order to keep shaping you towards more efficient, effective, etc. And so everything is reverse engineered from that capacity.
You talk about words mattering, and you use an example about slow trigger press. That's one that messed me up. Like, I started shooting when I was 4 years old, got my first rifle when I was 5, and I was coached slow, easy trigger press, slow, easy trigger press. And I applied that to shotgun. I applied it to pistol. I applied it to rifle, to snap shooting, to offhand. And I just applied that to everything. And I remember being out of the range in my late teens, and I was out there, and I was like, I know I can shoot, but man, okay, I'm slow, easy trigger press. I'm off target. I'm holding. I'm back on target. Slow, slow, slow. I'm off target. Back on slow, slow, slow. This guy looks over to me and he says, "What the hell are you doing? You're taking forever." And I look at him, and he's got this full getup on, and he's a super Gucci rig, and he's a world-class F-class shooter. And he's like, "When you're on target, you press the trigger." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm doing a slow, easy trigger press, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, but you got it wrong. Sure, doesn't mean you have to take you don't take a minute to pull that trigger, right?" And all right, so words do matter. And another one I've heard in the idea of words matter, trying to describe to somebody how you hold a pistol. And back in the day, they would say, "Well, look at your hand. Do you see steel dripping out of the bottom? Because if you do, you're gripping too hard. But other than that, you can't grip hard enough." And then they said, no, we're going to change this a bit. We're going to have a budgie grip. So pretend, here's my budgie. I'm going to give you this budgie. Hold it in your hands. How hard do you want to hold that? "Well, this is my pet budgie. I don't want it flying away." "How hard are you going to hold it?" "Well, hard enough so it doesn't fly away, but not so hard that I kill it," right? So that's what we're looking for, is budgie grip. And then fast forward a bit more, and I was listening to instructors say, "How do you know if you're gripping too hard? If you see plastic dripping out the bottom," because now, of course, we got polymer framed guns. But I went and I asked each one of these different instructors that I've had through my life. I put my hand out. I said, "Can you grab my wrist and show me how hard you're gripping this gun?" And each one of them gripped it just the same, whether they're doing budgie grip or they're doing plastic or steel melting out the bottom. I'm like, got it. Okay. So words matter. How we interpret those words really matter. And the tangent off of that is the words that we feed ourselves. I would say we have to actually believe too, because if we're just giving ourselves false positivity, false wins, we're going to not learn to trust ourselves. And I think that shows in our performance. And now all of those tangents, I'm going to throw over to you.
Okay, well, so let's talk about the first one. That was the slow trigger press. So I had every well-intentioned instructor, and then I became one because I went through the course, and I had instructor on my shirt. Therefore, I was gifted this knowledge which had nothing to do with that in any of that training, how to put it in someone else's head, right? And so I had these people in my ear, slow trigger press, or I'd stand next to them yelling slow trigger press. Or as a well-intentioned instructor, I'd see a right-handed shooter on the pistol putting rounds to the left. I would immediately come by and tell him to do some more zoomy guy stuff on the left side of the gun. And look at that, the rounds are going straight, and we get carpal tunnel from high-fiving, and they'd call, and I'd walk away. And 3 months later, heaven forbid, 12 months later, they walk in and I go, "Don't you remember anything?" Because it was a well-intentioned bad idea, number one, for me to just walk up and give feedback. They had no idea where that feedback was to land, how, and I wasn't setting it up in them. So we can have an entire discussion about feedback. Now, if you are giving feedback, or you are doing some descriptive coaching or something like that, what I do, again, my stupid human trick, I have this entire thing called owning the grip and owning the trigger. And that is an experience. I take you down while you're shooting a gun with try this, try this, try this. What did you notice? And we do everything to build out the concept for you for every way you can grip the gun and make it better for you. For every way you can pull a trigger and make it better for you. I was taught a trigger press was straight back to my nose, holding the pistol up in front of me. Well, actually, if I pull the trigger back so it touches just over my left shoulder, my trigger finger were to hit there, I finish flat on the trigger and I'm dead eye duck every time. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go through this process called owning the trigger. That's where you hold the gun. Now let's own the grip. Respectfully, I believe we were taught, I was taught how to stand. I was taught how to present a gun. I was taught how to hold a gun. I was taught how to shoot a gun. It's in the exact wrong order. I want to know where my finger finishes flat so that there's no undue disturbance to the pistol, finishing flat at the moment of shot discharge. Now that's where I hold the gun. Then that's where I support the grip for not only recoil control, which is one point of aim, but recoil management, which is the use of that recoil to move to a new point of aim. And now we're just unpacking all sorts of shit hot and awesome ways of being skillful with the tools, but it all has to do with language, the language of coaching, the language of guided exploration, right? Because we're linking together these concepts and the process. I want you to know the process to go through for you, because now you got a glove on, now you got an injury, now you got a different size gun, now you got a whatever. And the more times you go through it and own it for you, not because I was on a range where a tier 1 instructor who I absolutely believe in said, that's it. How do I know that's it? When he's not there. I have to own that material for myself. So that emotional coating is not made up. It is because you're putting rounds through the same hole on purpose by design. But I used to, you're on the SWAT team and we're not going to do this entry until we get it right. We're going to do it till we can't get it wrong. We're going to present this presentation till we can't get it wrong, business, whatever, right? Well, respectfully, it's a well-intentioned bad idea. I mean, if you were to go about it in another way, which is how to unpack and learn what other people were attending to, the meaning they got from those things in order to drive their next decision or behavior. And that's all through the use of language, which is what I'm a big proponent of, the purposeful and deliberate use of language. That's how you get into decision making. That's how you get into coaching. That's how you get into optimizing behavior. And so your second example, I know it was grip, sorry. And so now with slow trigger press, the unfortunate residue of that in the research is a motor skill, trigger press in this example. A motor skill is recalled at the speed at which it is laid down. And if you all of a sudden drew a weapon system, which 3 to 5 feet, 3 to 5 seconds, 3 to 5 rounds, all of a sudden I'm coming out of the holster. I'm not sight alignment, sight picture. No, it's mash, 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 mash. Early one-handed fire, well, hopefully ballistically moving to a position of advantage, shifting my eyes and attention to where I want the rounds to go, moving from gaze action coupling to on sights on trigger. That is the reality of a situation. And so when we go back to the traffic stop study, we saw these cops trying to outdraw a gun firing at them right up close. And there were all kinds of errors because they were practicing at the speed of qualification, but now they were trying to recall and drive a motor skill at the speed of survival, which was a lot faster. Were they going to challenge or threat? Obviously, most likely to threat. This isn't working. Cognitive dissonance. Holy crap, this gun's firing at me. This, etc. And that is not where high performance lives. So now there's all sorts of residue and like you said, being in there. So what's the takeaway for your listeners? Once you can do something quickly, do it quickly. But be careful what you wire together, what you muscle memory together. Competition shooting's excellent, but when I put a competition shooter in a scenario where now they're getting shot at, they're used to standing out from cover. They're used to doing things after a post-gunfight engagement. Post-gunfight engagement is the number one largest training scar I see in cops. Full stop. Because we don't do it. We wire it out. For our scenarios, for our targets, our two-dimensional targets. I will never have someone shoot at a piece of paper until they experience to a rich, deep, meaningful level what threat cues even look like that mean I need to get a gun out. You're doing yourself a disservice by not doing that first, because perception and the reason to get a gun out, it's not even there, which is the most important thing an elite athlete, an elite performer does. Under $30,000 eye tracking software, we see 7-year counter-terrorist members not moving faster, moving fractions of a second sooner to a threat
Mm-hmm.
because they had game intelligence, this Wayne Gretzky effect, this knowing what to pay attention to, what it means, and what to do in response instantaneously. That is the power of language and experience.
So I've got two kids as well, and one of them got her driver's license. The other one's just getting his driver's license. I'm teaching both of them. I'm putting them both through young drivers as well, so they can get the other side to it. But the way I'm teaching it is I explain, well, you've got to be able to see into the future a little bit. You have to be able to be a mind reader. What's that person on the road doing? What's this person over here? Tell me. When's the light going to change? Well, how do you know that? Well, the hand is coming up, the night it's counting down, it's a bit stale. Great, you're a mind reader. What's this person going to do when it starts to change? They're going to run it because they're going at a certain speed, or they're going to come into my lane because I can see them in the mirror and they keep looking over in their mirror and they're glancing, right? So the whole game is how to read the minds of the other people out there. So if something does go wrong, they're not reacting to, oh my God, a car's stopping right in front of me. They've already made the decision that that car might stop in front of them or someone might cut in front of them because they've read that so they can react sooner.
Okay, so this is exactly the example that I use when I teach this stuff for whomever, myself or Force Science or whatever. Driving, because we all have experience driving. So that's exactly it. There's a great study done where they took in the United Kingdom, you get to be a level 3 pursuit driver. Believe it or not, it's like 3 months long, and it's done in the public. Pursuit driving.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
To be an instructor for it takes 2 years.
Okay.
Let that digest, right? And
Yeah.
so we take these level 3 drivers, this pursuit drivers, and take novice drivers, and had them put on eye trackers to see where their full wheel central vision was looking. Now that doesn't tell us what they were attending to mentally, but it gives us a window into what they're looking at, etc. And at normal speeds, novice and these high-end experienced elite drivers looked around the same. But when they got going real fast, the experts shifted into another gear, metaphorically speaking, of how to look around differently. We didn't even know that happened. It was not something, that's why I named my company this. We were not training it on purpose by design. It was the hopeful residue of all the experience and runs through the entry or the presentation. We weren't deliberately understanding what was happening. And once we did, could we train that purposefully? Hey, look here like this. Yeah, absolutely. And did that mean way more people rose to the level? Yep. In way less time? Yep. There you go. So we got to talk about cognitive load, right? And we got to talk about attentional processes. We got to talk about this quote unquote muscle memory or unconscious competence with the tool, all with same with mine, with my daughter driving the car, my son driving the car. Have them talk out driving. So daddy showed first. We got in the car. Well, first of all, the first time we got in the car, it was all visualization and mental rehearsal. I had her go ahead and you set the seat for yourself. I said, not to be comfortable, not to drive. I said, for yourself. Because she knows you set the seat in mirrors. Okay, so you set the seat in mirrors. We're in the garage. Car's not even on. Then I walked around the back of the car and I said, hey, can you see me in your rearview mirror? Yeah. Can you see me now? No. Okay. How much of the car can you see? A bit of it. Does the car matter? Is that something we care about? Not really. Is it ever going to change? No. Okay. So would you like to see more of the road or more of your own car? Yeah, actually, I want to see more of the road. Okay. So adjust your mirror to make that. It was this long process so that she owned her mirror setting for her. She didn't do what dad told her. She knows the process to get in any vehicle and optimize it for her. Same with the steering wheel, same with the seat pedal placement, right? For a distance to pedals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then as we're in the vehicle, we say, okay, now just grip onto the steering wheel, take a few breaths and relax. We're not even going to drive yet. Okay, just relax. All right, think of a time when we were driving and whatever, like where you were in the car and it was a happy time, where you were in the car and think of a time when you felt in control of something else. And I bring that over into this vehicle now because you're in charge of this vehicle. All right, so notice how it smells. Notice the radio, notice the grip. And I want you to now envision this happening and I had her wire together, breathing and regulating herself mentally and physiologically while doing so. Had a great experience. Turn the car on, pull it out, pull it back in the garage, done. First one, space practice.
Beautiful.
But then as this went on, next sessions, right? So we'd always reinforce all of that. I said, okay, Dad's going to talk out everything he's doing. And so I'm looking to change lanes. I then signal, I then do that, all this stuff on how to work the tool, the car. She then starts to do that. Okay, we're just in a parking lot because I scale it down, right? I use non-consequential technologies, or a parking lot with not other cars. I use airsoft without shooting pellets 80 to 90% of the time. Before I ever would shoot pellets or bullets or anything like that, right? For example. And then once she would then drive and talk out what she was doing, I knew where her attention was. As that started to go, she started to say, and now I'm changing lanes. And all those other little components just happened. I knew that her attention and therefore cognitive load was decreasing because she was becoming more unconsciously competent, automaticity with the tool. That's the moment, Travis, you can start teaching game intelligence. Just the words I put on what you were already doing.
Sure.
When there's more attention, because now I'm working the tool, the gun, for example, and I don't have to think, slap the bottom of that, rack the cop, do whatever, all that to a stoppage drill. I can now start to pass on game intelligence. All right. So now, honey, as I'm driving, I now see what's predictive behavior. What are the critical cues? You already mentioned a bunch of them. The stop hand flashing. What does that mean to you? Well, okay. So how do we know? Because maybe she never attended to it. So draw her attention to it. I am always shaping attention and intention with what I'm doing and providing for people, coaching, feedback, and training. Then as that started to take place, I'd say, okay, great. We're entering a school zone. Look at what Dad's doing. Oh, you're braking. Am I? No, you're putting your foot over the brake. Oh, it's called covering the brake. Now, why do you think I'm doing that? I'm shifting my eyes and attention. I'm slowing the car down, shifting my eyes and attention over here. Because why? Because kids can appear. And what are kids, my daughter? They do crazy things all the time. Yes, they sure do. Unpredictable. So I'm teaching her where to look, how to create or maintain safety or advantage by slowing down predictive behavior to on the next, then she does it. Then I do it again. I add more to it. I teach her to look at brake lights, right? Park lights as a car goes into park. Predicting someone may open the door, look into their mirror to see if someone's there or not. All these critical cues of quote unquote game intelligence, predictive behavior and decision making, which I do in gunfights, I do in business meetings, I do in interrogations and interviews, I do all the time. It's called calibrating other people, left of bang, noticing the anomaly, and that makes a decision and all this great stuff. So it's exactly that. I just sharpen it by putting more of a process and maybe definitions or tangibility and handles on it.
So what would be an example of how that would be related into a business meeting or into a corporate setting?
Well, so what's your desired end state? So now, let's say, so I'm in a negotiation. All right, so how am I calibrating the other person? It would almost be like a poker game, right? Tells and things. Maybe as I'm standing up at the front, is the person that I'm presenting with, I want to make sure they're calm, cool, and collected. Hence what I talked about at the very beginning, this circle of personal excellence, or this idea that we can build in a state of mind where we are functioning, processing information, calm, but either maybe calm like I want to go to sleep, or calm like I'm in a recovery phase, or calm, cool, and collected, processing information. On the inside, I'm like that swan's legs under the water, right? Just
Sure.
away, but I look calm, cool, and collected on the outside. So in a business meeting, I have to ask the person, right? Are you nervous up in front of people on a scale of 0 to 10? Talk to me where you're at. And some people, on spiders, heights, public speaking, whatever, right? And now we'll start addressing that. We'll go through mental rehearsal on that. And here's the key points. I got to get some of this research out to you. The brain doesn't know the difference. Right? It doesn't know the difference. So, MMA fighting. Okay. So by simply showing, I guess this might just be audible, but just imagine, for those of you who can't see me, that, if I was going to punch you, now watch this, and I'll notice, what do you see? And now all of a sudden my right arm's cocking, right? Okay, and through talking about it, I don't tell you, what did you notice? What's the first thing to move? Hey, have another look. Hey, your shoulder goes back before it goes forward in this case. So that's called a critical cue. That's an area to observe, but is that the only place I want to focus? No. And then we have to unpack what I do. There's two types of vision, central vision and ambient vision, foveal and peripheral vision. And there's two different reaction times to that. So in sports, volleyball, golf, hockey, in gunfighting, in MMA, we need to learn how to use these different parts of our eyes to leverage the reactive systems of our ambient vision to notice these critical cues happening right away, for example. So, I mean, this is in a business meeting, it's exactly the same. Or imagine I'm interrogating someone, literally, as a police officer, as a detective sergeant. I'm sliding over an evidence presentation to say, is there any reason why your DNA shouldn't be found at that scene? Or some big, what we call a most important question, like that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
before I've done that, I have positioned myself in a way to look for where critical cues are going to happen. Pupil dilation, flushness of eyes, immediate reactions to the vascular system, and all this stuff that I'm constantly calibrating with anyone I'm doing anything with, because it becomes second nature. That doesn't mean they're lying or not. It just means that these are all things that are happening in that environment. And if I'm focusing on task and process, I'm probably not internal going, oh God, what if this doesn't happen? And it's the reshifting, the catching myself not focused on the right thing and shifting to what are the critical cues when driving, in a gunfight, in a business meeting, and procedures and process. That is the skill set. It's actually called top-down attentional control. And that's the metaphorical muscle that I'm always trying to build in people. But you can't do that until they know and experience and have foundation with when were they in an optimal performance state. Maybe that was just baking cookies.
So, from your perspective, as you look out into culture, into institutions, what makes you want to stand up and say you're getting this completely wrong?
It's almost a what doesn't. I hate.
All right.
I don't mean to be some sort of. I don't mean to come off that way, but once you know this stuff, you can't unknow it. And so,
Yeah, there's a difference between arrogance and confidence. So you're not coming off in a certain way.
Well, I hope I'm not coming off
You know your
arrogant.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I'm very opinionated, but those opinions are grounded in actual application, durable learning, performance under pressure. This is the thing. So let me just tell you this one little study with putting, right? This one did it for me. Imagine this, okay? So there's a study done at university, because you can get a university student to sign up to do anything for $20, right? So they get these university students. You're going to do 10 putts. You're going to come into this and do 10 putts on the golf putting 6 days in a row. All right, so you're going to do 60 putts, but we're going to break you into 3 groups randomly. The control group, we're going to just say, do your best on each shot. And you do. Whatever that is, go ahead and do that. Then we're going to get another group. We're going to say, do your best on each shot, but just before you do it, we want you to envision the putt just missing. Then they asked a group, it wasn't me, they asked a group, do your best on each shot, but just before you putt, envision it going in. Guess what? Oh, now, to be clear, they took this group of people, they had them do a performance test, ranked them from basically like novice putting, medium, I can't remember what it was, but it was 3 levels, put them at different distances from the hole so that it was all kind of about the same, right? So I would have been very close. Other people would be very far from the hole if they're better, right? Okay, so after 6 days, they do a performance test. The control group got 9.9% better because they were doing practice. The positive group got 30 3.4% better. 3-0.
Wow.
This is the biggest hit. The negative imagery group, who did exactly the same physical repetitions as everyone else, got worse, negative 21.2%. 50% difference between thinking and envisioning it going in or not.
Wow. What a man thinks, he'll do.
So here's the residue. Here's the takeaway. It almost gives me goosebumps. What are you leaving thinking about? Because you can not only neutralize, but massively negate even quality physical practice. So if you shoot a group here in the upper chest and here up in the face and zing, that guy, what are you going home thinking about? 150 side alignment trigger press nailed it, or that guy? And I also think about that guy, but I used to go home punishing myself over it, lamenting on it. And I didn't know, because I had learned from a teacher very, very early in life who looked at me, little Johnsgaard. I was a fat, happy kid, just, just moving around. I wasn't caring about en français class. She walked over to me. We'll just call her Mrs. M, that total. And she looked at me and said, "You have trouble concentrating." And I looked up at this person of prestige and I said, "I have trouble concentrating." "You have trouble in languages and math." And I went, "I'll have trouble in languages and math." And she sent a post-it note, a suggestion to my brain going, why should I even bother trying? So I tried out for sports and I wasn't good at that. So I just ate and I was happy. Then it wasn't until later in life that I realized the residue in my brain, my subconscious brain, about these things. And then I needed to deliberately learn how to optimize them. So you can literally wipe out by thinking quote unquote negative. So I don't think that bad things or misses or I didn't get the job or that's happened a ton in my life. Absolutely. In fact, there are things that I have tons of regrets. I hear people say I live a life of no regrets. I'm like, that's amazing. I have tons of them. I just don't live in the toxicity of them anymore. I think, and here's the phrase, feed forward. My feedback is feed forward centric, so that what will I do? How did that go? What did I learn? Take the positive from that. And how will that look next time? And I never leave. In fact, there are 6 people on the planet that I know that I will go through force on force scenarios with them that they design, because I don't know. The rest of people have this unintentional, which is your main question here. When you look at society, when you look at training in law enforcement, when you look at the unintended residue of the experiences of even being on the line, shooting at a paper target, are astronomical if you haven't done early context, cue recognition, post gunfight behavior, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as an example. Heaven forbid you go into a presentation feeling like you're going to fail, break your arm, slip on the ice, and you do, and now you walk away going, this just isn't for me, maybe this career choice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of that stuff is BS. Failure is feedback. What are you going to do with that feedback?
So I think you and I, and probably a number of the listeners, probably had that same teacher who inputted that negative information. When you talk about that one round that goes off on that side, that little guy, of course, we'll just borrow from Super Troopers. I wouldn't worry about that little guy. But you used to worry about it, you're saying. You had these things imprinted in the back of your head, and you had this idea, I'm never going to be good at math. I'm a hyperactive student. But you no longer live in the toxicity of that. So my question would be, how did you reach that realization, and what do you do internally or externally to not live in the toxicity of that moment? Because I think a lot of the people listening will have negative things happen to them and will ruminate on it. And it's a natural human response to replay it, live in the moment, go through it. I mean, that's what PTSD is all about. They've had these experiences and they ruminate. How did you break forward to no longer live in the toxicity of that moment?
I simply, and I say simply, as in I simply used a tool. I didn't know I was doing it at the time. It just slowly came about learning about it. haphazardly, I guess, or yeah. And that tool is theater of the mind, is mental rehearsal, is imagery visualization, right? And I just don't like the word visualization because if you ask people to visualize it, it biases thinking pictures. And if you took 100
Mm.
people that were a cross section of the society and you asked them to envision something to a deep, rich, meaningful level, 20 to 50 of them won't actually see pictures. And so by using that word visualization, they feel like they're not doing it right and it's not for me,
Ah,
etc. Seriously. But in order to do this properly, you use all of your senses, to as much as possible. There's one-track phobic learning. I have a good friend who was a officer in New York, 9/11. He won't get on a plane, can't smell jet fuel again. It's a no-go, full stop. One-track phobic
mm,
learning, associated it to horror and all the rest of it. And okay, and that's absolutely
sure.
cool. If you ever want to get over that, just like let's talk about it. But he drove from Florida to Montana to train with me and back because he doesn't get on airplanes, right? So we're born with 4 innate fears, right? Smothering, sudden approaches, loud noises, and heights. Everything else is learned. So if you're afraid of spiders or if you're afraid of, whatever it is, and you get this anxiety, and that's most important, I guess, let's reframe it, period. We should talk about mindsets, growth mindset, Carol Dweck's work, that kind of idea. Mindsets are malleable. This teacher, Mrs. M, right, gave me this mindset. I didn't even know. I didn't know,
Mm.
and I viewed the world through it from that point on. That's why I want to shake my fist at, all the rest of it, to say the least. And so mindsets are malleable and changeable, and you can do that. So what I do with people is you take them through experiential training, and you can use the theater of the mind, right? So you can use mental rehearsal to do that. Your brain cannot tell the difference between practicing something that you know about. It can't just say like pretend to fly an airplane if you don't know how to fly an airplane, right?
Mm.
And actually doing it. So things that you can do easy, like in a laboratory, right? Like piano playing. So they get a bunch of piano players and they give them this noted sequence, this new novel sequence, and they have them go away and imagine playing it. And they had some other people go play it for the exact same amount of time. When they came back, the people who imagined it got almost as good as the people who actually did it in their mind.
Wow.
Now, what if we said, play it, but since it's hard on your joints, it's hard to set up, you can't always be in front of a piano or practicing in a car or whatever your thing is that you're practicing, do some more, quote, reps in your mind. Imagine if we stacked them, and imagine if we flavored it that way. So it's not that I don't miss. It's not that I don't have where I try to do my best, and my best. I am another key point here. I cannot control outcomes. And I can only control what it is that I put in. And I know that to do my best means to regulate my physiology and my psychology. And in order to do that, this idea of theater of the mind or mental rehearsal is absolutely the same as if you did it yourself. Hence why you can envision your goggles flipping full of water, or you being shot and whatever without that happening, right? But you gotta have tangibility and engagement with the material. You can't just, right? You can't just be there. Okay, so now we envision yourself, doing a reload while your arm is shot to hell and whatever, something like that. Oh, yeah, now you're all
Mm.
good. How do you go away owning that material? So this is the key point here, right? So you got to give someone an experience of doing it, and then we start leveraging that some more. When I give them an experience of doing that, what I'm actually doing is I'm helping them to learn how to think about how they think. It's called metacognition, just fancy mouth
Mm.
words for something I believe should be taught in grade 2. Heaven forbid, everyone should be taught it before you get a license or walk into a voting booth, right? It's just like, well, it's true, because
Yeah.
you're being directed and you're not thinking about how you think. You're not thinking about
Hmm.
what you're now thinking, saying, or doing in response to something else, right? And so there's lots of ways to go about leveraging that, whether that's some people, I want to put them in a physical state of uncomfortableness. So maybe we're going to exercise. And while we're exercising, we get a hold of our psychology and our physiology and go, hey, I'm in an uncomfortable place right now, but I'm thriving. I'm rising to the occasion. I get in a cold tub, and my psychology and my physiology is like, no. And I use breathing and attentional focus to regulate myself down. Like, just by doing that right now, I got goosebumps all over my body because I
Sure.
put myself there. I think about that hostage negotiation shot, and well, there it is again. And I get an entire reaction across my body that I could interpret as threat and as oh no, or I could interpret as challenge. When I think of those things, my body vibrates with put me in, coach. It doesn't
Mm.
vibrate with, oh no, this is anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the reframe. Anxiety is a natural, normal thing. It means you care about something. It's future oriented. It's the only I'm sure no animal does that. The gazelle could be eating, and all of a sudden the tiger comes out and cortisol and the rest of it, and it moves. And then once that's done, it's back eating again. But we're thinking, will this brush also have a tiger? What would have happened? Oh, could you imagine if? And then we lament and we seriously, that's what we do, right? So
Yeah.
how do we then think not just positively, because that's silliness, right? I don't just always think
Mm-hmm.
rainbows and sunshine, right? But I do think, what am I going to do with this information? How is this leveraging? How am I growing? How am I learning to pivot and adjust? What is important to me now? Life's most powerful question. I stole it from Brian Willis, an amazing Canadian trainer in Calgary. Win. What's important now? Win. What's important next? Life's most important
Mm-hmm.
question. And I wind it into everything I'm doing. And so that is that focused on the process, focused on catching myself and knowing that real-time tools are focus of attention and breathing. So then I say, okay, so now let's get a hold of our physiology by breathing. There's this cyclic sigh or physiological sigh. I show them a 2-minute Andrew
Sure.
Huberman video, right? And there's lots of research on that now, but we have to deliberately wind that in. So my daughter driving, something happens. Do your breathing. Okay, back in charge, snapping on. And we give little doses of that while teaching them how to emotionally regulate. Again, while teaching them how to emotionally regulate. In the community, it was always, quote, stress them out to inoculate them against stress. That is a absolutely flawed model. It's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot inoculate someone against future stress. You're a different person, right? In a different river every time. There are things you can
Mm-hmm.
do ahead of time. Get lots of sleep, gratitude, nutrition, exercise, etc. But whether you said or didn't do any of those things, all of a sudden in this moment, something's happening, anxiety, etc. Are we depression? That's past focused. Are we fear right in the moment, which is a mobilizing response? I love it. It allows me to get my resources ready, but I regulate them to a level that's not too much and taking me into a place where physiologically and psychologically I'm not in an optimal state. That's different for driving than smashing a door open with a gun and a whatever, than different from learning and writing a test. Those are just, and I learned those, put them in those experiences, and have my kids, when driving, have my people, myself, when visualizing and imagining, to recatch and reframe all of those things to challenge, not threat.
So you're talking about getting goosebumps a couple times when you're the psychophysiological response to just visualizing different things that are happening. And I remember was it an instructor? I think it was an instructor who once came up and says, I want you guys to close your eyes, right? Or they either had us visualize it or they did it right in front of us. I'm trying to remember, but they got a lemon. Have you visualize a lemon? I either visualize it so well that I see them doing it, and they start slicing this lemon open and they take a peel off and you can see it's squirting some water and lemon juice out, and they stick it in their mouth and they bite down hard on this. And talking the class through this process, and then the class would have a physiological response. So the mouth watering and that lemon flavor and that kind of, that sort of battery acid kind of twinge that you get just from thinking about it or just from seeing it on screen. You can have that physiological response. And when you talk about that reframing, I think that's a powerful one. It's one that I use. It's one that I've taught my kids. They talk about anxiety or fear, and I'll ask them the question, are you afraid or are you excited? Right? You have a test coming up. Are you afraid of the test? Are you excited about what's going to happen? And that subtle reframe, because I don't think the body really knows the difference between excitement and fear. And if you can psychologically reframe whatever that's happening from that negative, like, I don't like what's happening, to this is awesome, I'm getting on a roller coaster and we're excited, it's a powerful tool that I will use to help myself and others, my kids, get over something that might be otherwise labeled as fear.
That's absolutely. So, I went down this rabbit hole of this thing called neurolinguistic programming, right? So I'm in these long seminars and stuff, and there's this one lady there, and we're doing a phobia cure. So this lady is literally petrified of spiders, and she knew it. Come Friday, they were going to bring snakes and spiders and all sorts of stuff to this thing, and it was a phobia cure. If you were ready to get over it, you're going to get over it. Short version of this story is, I talked to her with the fancy mouth words for 20 minutes. She was ready. She was in I guess you'd call it like a place where something's got to change, that something needs to change now, and that something is me. We call it threshold, right? Where she's ready to make a change. And I talked to her and reframed. The next thing you know, she's got a tarantula walking on her hand. 20 minutes later, she has the same physiological reaction to it, but she is interpreting it through the lens of exhilaration instead of anxiety and fear and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the key point. I'm watching this happen, this 68-year-old lady, and I'm happy, but I'm sad that I said this afterward. And I looked at her and I said, now, your whole life, you were literally paralyzed to the point of like phobic responses to spiders. You were wrong about that, weren't you? Like, now you're not. And I said, imagine all the other places in your life that you've been holding back that you no longer need to hold back from. And she looked at me, and I have this entire reaction across my body. And a year later, she'd been traveling and she'd been doing like just all this stuff. And when you asked me, what are some of the things that you see going on in society or in law enforcement training or in any, whatever it is, these are the things I see. And there are these parking brakes we're putting on each other, ourselves. There are these limiting things that we're putting on ourselves and each other and our groups and our society and all that. Heaven forbid, when my responsibility is to take a civilian in just a few hours and offer them the very best training I can for self-defense, for optimization of a sport or whatever, you know what I mean? Something like that. When there's high stakes and pressure on it. And I think the gravity of that is so tremendous, so tremendous. So, when you're reframing, that's exactly right. In his book, The Ace Factor, Mike Spick talks about World War II pilots. It was like a 1966 study. Herbert Weiss was studying World War II pilots. And he said that basically, if you were a World War II pilot, you were a flying turkey, meaning like you had next to zero life expectancy. So here we are climbing on the graph. My hand is very low for those of you who can't see, until you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. 5 to 7, key phrase here, Travis, decisive engagements. When you thrived 5 to 7 times decisive engagements in the air, your life expectancy was up near 100%.
Wow.
So how do we can't, in our society, just throw people to war, throw people and just hope for the best, right? The Spartan warrior, hope they come back, right? The young man, hope he comes back and survives. But we can create pre-combat veterans. We can do prehabilitation with our people. We can develop through scaled, scaffolded progression, deliberate work to make a business executive, to make a presenter, to make someone who's able to engage and stay engaged in a conversation and relate to people and be more expressive and whatever. And I know this because I do it in what I consider to be the harshest environments. Just a few seconds, training a part of the brain to happen without thinking about it, reactions and efficient and effective movement under time compression and ambiguity and the rest of it. So if I even have a couple of seconds to think about what to do. It's like cheating to me in order to perform better.
Huh. Have you ever had a student who completely changed your understanding of what it means to prepare for violence?
Oh, that's a good question. So just imagine, so let me see if I'm on the right track here with that. Maybe you have to ask me that again, but something else triggered in my mind. So the last thing you had asked was as well about reframing. So I've got
Sure.
these shooters come in. So I've had some cops who didn't qualify. Imagine if I had a script that was written out that I read at them that took just a few minutes, and instantly 4 to 6 of them were never needing to were always able to qualify after that. Imagine if that were the case. And all that script said was brought them into the range, had them sit and emotionally regulate through visualization and imagery. That same thing was done actually in a study with 3 minutes. So it took a group of law enforcement, split them into 2 groups, read a 3-minute script at them, just one group, the other group, nothing, where it was take a deep breath. Now, in a moment, you're going to go through a use of force scenario, not talking about what it was going to be, but as things unfold, you notice how easily you are able to focus now on what's important. Notice how you're able to respond with just the right da-da-da-da. Notice how you are, just this script, 3 minutes, one time. Everybody went into the same scenario, and the only thing they could measure was shot placement, although I'm not a big keen on that, but 50% accuracy, 33% accuracy. One time,
Wow.
3 minutes. So then I got another friend, Austin, who's he does a lot of active shooter response. So just like cops going into school shootings. And he reframed my thinking on coaching and teaching that. He said, the most important place I can be is as a safety officer. And I went, okay, why? Because I'm giving them their gear, and that's the moment I have to get into their head. And I went, oh, now you've got something. Tell me more about that. He says, hey, you're just about to go into an active shooter situation, right? So just imagine, he goes, and he's moving them from threat to challenge. Yes, he's moving them from, I don't want to look bad, I don't want ego, I don't want, ego or not, but we don't want to look like we don't know, right? I mean, there's always that. He said, imagine someone's down the hall killing children. Is that acceptable to you? Absolutely not. All right, so what are we going to focus on doing? And by even talking in that manner, I move myself towards goal focus, towards what to do, towards external focus of attention, towards and regulation of mindset, and guess how much better they performed. So how do we catch ourselves not in so I'll call it just a threat-based state, and shift immediately to a challenge-based state? This is the point. You've already brought up the key phrases, Travis. So, hey, you're going to give that presentation. Oh no, next month or whatever it is. All of a sudden, I've got that's a threat. Avoidance behaviors versus what I do with people. Okay, how can we prepare? How much time have we got? What's the best way we can start to do behaviors to do with my own personal excellence? Putting in the work, rising to the occasion. It might mean it works out or not, but either way, I will learn from it and get better at it. And so now how do we start focusing on those things, which is task-oriented, process-driven, et cetera, et cetera. And so now when I wind that into, I have put in the work, and I will do the very best that I can based on that, and I will always learn and grow. I mean, that's the focus, the reframe, the thing. And so we need to not just talk about it. What I do is actually do it, because doing, like when people say to me, well, take me through the own your grip or own your trigger. I was like, I'll give you the lesson plan, but taking you through it and experiencing it, now you own it for you. That's the key point there.
So if you were forced to throw away everything that you currently teach, and you could only pass on one truth to a student to help them survive violence, what would that be?
That is not a good question.
It's a good question for a podcast, and it's a good question for social media. But
No, okay, no. I'm coming down on you because it's like I immediately think of 3 things. Okay, so if I were to throw out everything, and it's a very hard question to answer because of this. Am I talking to who? So what I do is I give people 5 more pounds on their barbell. And my stupid human trick is the ability to do that with 30 people at one time. But it's 5 slightly different pounds because you're different people at a different place with the material. Learning is not an event, it is a process. So I need to know, it's the fight on Monday. So it's happening right away because I first wanted to say, honestly, I would say to them, stay curious, growth mindset, heart of a warrior, something like that, because they'll figure it out. But that's only if they got the time to do so. If the fight was coming up right away, I would say something more to do with the will to act, right? The power of the force is right. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the force, right? The ability to actually do something. Ronin, one of my favorite movies. If there is a doubt, there is no doubt. Yes, but the second part of that he didn't say was, so do something. Link that to a response and behavior, even if that's just preparation internally, while outside you look like calm, cool, and collected. So if I were to pass that on, I'd want to know where that person was at in order to give them the best 5 pounds for Monday. Generally speaking, I would say that emotional regulation is the thing because we don't have the time to polish a skill set. And that has to do with breathing and focus of attention. That is the base of the pyramid for everything that I teach, emotional regulation.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should be talking about?
Well, there's tons of stuff, brother. To maybe another conversation because we've been going for so long already. But, I would want people to understand that conceptually, there's a few models for where you could put your attention. If attention is so important, because Jeff says, right? Not because Jeff says, but I'm bringing that up. Many far more intelligent people and performers have said that. But conceptually, it can be in this quadrant, these 4 places. It can be internally or externally focused, and then it could be internally or externally narrow or broad. So I'm a batter at here's a sports analogy. I'm going to suck at it, right? But I'm a batter on home plate, right? I guess that's where they stand. so I could be internally focused on the grip of the bat. I could be that's narrow, internally broad on the feel of the swing. I could be externally focused on a critical cue of the angle of the pitcher's arm or something. Or I could be externally focused broad on like the watching because they know Jeff's at bat, so the outfield just walks its way in, right? Or something like that, external broad. And so by knowing what quadrant of attention you are in, expert performers know what quadrant they're in and what quadrant they should be in and how to switch and get there. So am I focused on the right information? Wayne Gretzky or expert performers don't just know what to focus on. They know when to focus on it and what it means to drive their next behavior. That means they know all the other stuff that's screaming for attention, that's captivating me, driving a car. Whoa, what happened over there? Oh, still driving a car, rear end the guy. I mean, it happens all the time. I got caught in the right quadrant, external, focused on the wrong thing, for example. And so that is how I start to deliberately, we have to have a language, we have to have an understanding. I start to deliberately put that into other people so now they have their own feedback, their own analysis, and can start to make themselves better because my sole purpose is to remove myself from the equation. Again, the only reason to understand these quadrants of attention is for top-down attentional control, or to catch myself not focused on the right thing and refocus on the right thing.
So people want to learn more about this. You do have some free resources on your website.
Oh yeah, and I'm happy to talk more about it anytime with you as well. But yeah, and I thanks for that. There is a couple of articles. I do want to do that circle of excellence I talked about. I keep saying I'm going to just do that up and put it on the website. I would certainly offer it out to your listeners as well, and we'll try to get all that done.
Tell me more about the Circle of Excellence. I really want to know. So what would that look like if you had that completed?
What it simply is, I mean, I do it all the time. I just haven't recorded it. Let's say, Travis, you and I are working together. And so whether that was for pick a topic, you want to be a better coach, you want to be better performer, you want to give a presentation, whatever that is, right? And so one of the first things we will do after we have a conversation is we'll take you through imagery, through theater of the mind for notice yourself perhaps in a room or in the room you're in. Notice a circle of light, and this circle starts to form. Whatever size is up to you, whatever color is up to you. But inside of that circle is you when you have been performing your best, perhaps when you have been doing right. So this circle of excellence, and so we would then build that out to include all the times when you have been performing well, or the times when you haven't, but you took the learnings. And as we step into this thing, it's actually a physical thing I like to do, to have people move, because you can, by changing your physiology, moving, you change your psychology much easier. It's hard to think your way into a new way of acting, but act your way into a new way of thinking, right? And so it's
True.
all these little tricks I use to get this. That's what I am good at what I do. So the circle of excellence. And then I then took in turn and built that even more. So, hugging my daughter, I love you, Daddy, anchored that into it. The time when I did really well at the, in high stakes and pressure, and I anchor that, I put that in there, and all these things. And then I strip away the events and leave all the feeling, emotion, etc., all the resources. Because if I've done it one time, I have the ability to do it. Be at heights and be at ease, be calm under pressure, refocus when I was not focused on something, all that stuff. And then we use that, we can then carry that with us or step into it and leverage it. It puts us in a resourceful state where we can access and really perform our best. Then we take that grounded foundation of that, which we're adding to literally. I add everything of every day. Had a great talk with you, Travis. Felt like I was as engaged as I could be, not being in a room with you, but better than to have done it than not do it, because we're so far apart. I'll anchor that into it. Anyway, on and on and on and on. So it becomes founded in reality. Then that keeps getting added to. Now, when you can actually use a kinesthetic anchor. I typically do, I use my thumb touching my third finger here, this knuckle, because it's really awkward to be able to do that. So I build it up in my mind until I'm to this point where it's like at a crescendo, where it's like I feel it. There's the temperature, the movement, all those things that make it vibrant for me. And I press that anchor. I love you, Daddy. And I press that anchor. I was doing really well, and I press that anchor. I caught that thing and coached well, and I press that anchor, and I put those things in. So if I ever need to access it, there's a physiological and psychological cue associated to it, instantaneously done. There's lots of little tricks and things like that. You can do that to the stock and cheek weld. You can do that to the driving of the car. I did it with my daughter. When your hands are here, it helps you to focus even more now on what's important. It helps you to, right? You see the language.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Of course.
Stuff. Yeah, all that stuff.
Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm looking forward to our next one, because I think there's a lot more in here that we can unpack. Jeff, I want to thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, man. I love good conversations. So, we'll talk more offline, and look forward to being back. I hope the audience got some value.